A week later, the Fog and Finch hosted another afternoon tea. Poor Mildred was even more nervous than usual. Humans who have once been embarrassed in public often begin expecting humiliation the way one expects rain clouds after thunder. She spent most of the morning rearranging teaspoons that did not require rearranging and polishing perfectly respectable teacups into states of unnecessary exhaustion. Most notably, she wore sensible brown shoes that I found this deeply disappointing. When Evelina Plum arrived trailing expensive perfume and the sort of confidence usually possessed by people who are wrong quite often, Mildred vanished into the kitchen almost immediately. Evelina's sharp gaze narrowed toward me at once. "Must that cat be here constantly?" she asked with tremendous disapproval. Before I could fully recover from the insult, however, the front bell chimed once more, and into the Fog and Finch swept Duchess Arabella Dunlawry of Thistlemere. Now, strangely enough, the Duchess wore an expression remarkably similar to someone trying very hard not to smile at a private joke. Evelina instantly transformed into sweetness itself. "Your Grace," she trilled. "What an absolute delight." "Indeed," said the Duchess pleasantly, already looking past her. "Now then, where is your lovely young waitress?" Doris looked confused. "Mildred?" "The very one," said the Duchess. And with that, Doris disappeared toward the kitchen at once. I followed naturally. There stood Mildred furiously wiping a countertop that had already achieved perfection several minutes earlier. "Mildred," Doris whispered urgently, "Her Grace is asking for you." Mildred turned pale as custard. "No, no," she whispered. "I couldn't possibly go out there." Now Doris Puddlewick understood something important about frightened hearts. Sometimes they simply require someone kind to walk beside them. So Doris gently wrapped an encouraging arm around Mildred's shoulders. "Of course you can, my love," she said softly. Together they returned to the tea room. The entire shop seemed suddenly quieter somehow. Mildred looked very near fainting. Then Duchess Arabella stepped gracefully toward her and, with the faintest glimmer of mischief in her eyes, delicately extended one elegant foot from beneath the hem of her gown. Thereupon her royal and impeccably polished foot rested a shoe of soft pink velvet adorned with tiny glass beads, lavender ribbons, and delicate embroidered roses. Not identical to Mildred's, but unmistakably inspired by them, the entire room stared. Seemingly frozen in place, Mildred stared in disbelief. "I found myself quite enchanted by your marvelous shoes the other afternoon," said the Duchess warmly. Mildred looked utterly bewildered. "You did?" "Of course," said the Duchess. "The world is already far too devoted to dullness. For one glorious moment, absolutely no one knew where to look except me. I looked directly at Evelina Plum. It seemed only proper." Later that evening, after the final teacups had been washed and the last lavender scones safely rescued from Mr. Pemberley's pockets, Mildred stepped quietly out into the cool evening air. But this time she was smiling. The rain had stopped entirely now, leaving Crimsbury silvered with moonlight and glowing softly beneath rows of lanterns. At the corner stood Mr. Willoughby's wagon. Mr. Willoughby himself sat upon a stool in front of the wagon, polishing Mildred's wonderful shoes with extraordinary seriousness. "Well now," he said gently without looking up, "it would seem Crimsbury has regained a bit of its colour." Mildred laughed quietly. A real laugh this time, not the fragile sort humans use when trying not to cry. Mr. Willoughby handed her the shoes carefully. The velvet looked softer somehow. The tiny embroidered flowers almost seemed to shimmer beneath the lantern glow. For a moment Mildred simply stared. Then very slowly, she sat down upon the wagon step and slipped the shoes back onto her feet. Humans rarely realize how courageous small acts can be. Mr. Willoughby smiled faintly. "There now," he said softly. "That looks much more like you." Mildred stood, and for the first time since the terrible tea party, she no longer looked like someone trying to disappear. She looked like herself, bright, tender, a little impractical perhaps, but wonderfully herself. Then from somewhere down the street Doris called, "Mildred, you'll catch your death standing about in the fog." Mildred turned with a laugh and hurried off through the lantern-lit street, the little beads upon her shoes flickering softly as she went. And rather curiously, when she glanced back only moments later, the corner stood completely empty. No wagon, no lanterns, no Mr. Willoughby, only drifting fog curling quietly beneath the moonlight. Now personally, I have long suspected there are more mysterious things in this world than humans are quite prepared for. Though perhaps, that is precisely what keeps life interesting.